It is time to check in with Amanda Lang, CTV News Chief Financial Correspondent, on a up and down, crazy kind of week, certainly in markets, Amanda. So let's start by talking about, and I know we've been talking about this now for a couple of weeks. I'm not sure that we're any closer to a resolution in the Middle East on the Iran war, but it seems every day, depending on what Donald Trump says, and maybe that's not news either, markets either go way up or way down. Once we had the announcement that, it was 5 days and no more military. Oil came down. Now it's gone back up. How are you supposed to sort of take all this in? Like, what's the long game here?
Yeah, I mean, it really does speak to the extent to which the length of this conflict matters. Now, some things have happened that mean it will go on longer, even if the hostilities end. Some of the infrastructure damage means we're going to be living with some costs for a long time regardless, but that there wouldn't be more damage and kind of more stoppage in the flow of oil and goods does make markets feel optimistic. And at the beginning of the week, the feeling was maybe this is almost over. If they're in talks, maybe there's a negotiated settlement. I think it became clear as the week went on that does not seem to be the case. Iran, of course, refuting that that's even happening. And so you go back to the uncertainty of, well, what is happening? The good news is that all makes it sound like America wants to find a way out. So, Aaron, then we just price in what's the cost of what's happened so far, and then what might happen if it keeps going.
So we also know, and I think we talked about this last week as well, you hate to say it this way, but obviously the oil situation is good for Canada. We're a major producer. And then I saw Alberta Premier Danielle Smith suggesting, hey, kind of trying to prod, I guess, the federal government or maybe even other provinces into saying, let's ramp this stuff up. This could be very, very good for us. Why are we not doing more?
Yeah, I mean, one of the long-term structural changes that's happened here is that Qatar's natural gas and LNG terminal specifically has been damaged. That takes a long time to repair. So then if we put ourselves in a race and say, how quickly could we get LNG Canada 2 online? How quickly could we complete the construction of some others that are already kind of in progress? That would put our gas in the same market where their gas goes. So the nice thing about our West Coast is it's a competitive distance to get to Asia. And so we do become a source for, in this case, it would be really interesting if we could get our gas to Taiwan, which is a huge recipient of Qatar's gas. We all need to care about that. All of our chips are made largely, I shouldn't say all of them, but most of the world's chips are still made in Taiwan. We cannot afford for it to not have the energy it needs. So, yeah, I would say it does put our pedal to the metal and see if we can get our own gas into the marketplace fast.
So with respect to markets, it's kind of difficult now to predict. It's interesting, right? 2 months ago, we were talking about, the big problem with tech or software or, the whole AI situation. That's completely been forgotten, it would seem now. That argument's out of the window. Maybe they're overvalued. How long does this focus stay, do you think? You said, it's not simply a matter of the war ending, say, tomorrow or next week. There's going to be an extended time element here before things, as you say, get back to normal. How long is that, do you think?
I mean, it's a good question, and I would actually say, I would reframe a little bit what you're saying. I don't think we can forget about the effects of tech and AI, and there's two prongs to that. One is those stocks may still be overvalued. The kind of handful of stocks that have driven this market higher may still be overvalued. And then part two of it is the damage that some of the technical changes are going to make to our economy, especially job losses. Will it be accelerated because of this period of higher prices and inflation and cost soaring, and businesses need to find the savings, and one way to do it is to lay off staff? Or will it be slowed down because of a loss of capital and costs are higher? People can't actually make the investment in AI. That's sort of the interesting question. My guess is it'll continue, and we're going to see more and more layoffs. And one interesting trend to watch, I haven't seen Canadian data, but there's some U.S. data on high-end workers, so white-collar workers, tech workers. When they lose their jobs, the replacement job they find is at a lower salary. So there's some deflationary pressure showing up in a key part of the labor market. How we manage that if other costs are rising is a really interesting question for us to, as a society, to think about.
Yeah, to your point, if that's the case, that rattles, of course, that has effects through everything else. The price of goods and how much people spend, and if retail is still going to be there. So that's a serious concern. Serious concern.
And, if that's happening in a broad way, the bottom drops out of the housing market. It drops out. We'll start to see, we've already seen some fraying around the edges of parts of the credit market. That could be a serious problem if we also see rates going up. So imagine your salary goes down and your costs go up and interest rates go up. This is the worst case scenario, but that could be one of the first wave effects of AI. Beyond that, maybe there are benefits. Maybe, there's new businesses, and that's the sort of abundance theory that something good's around the corner. But in the short term, there could be some pain.
GDP numbers coming out for Canada. We know today the Prime Minister announced that, we've reached our 2% NATO target, which I think he said is around it's a huge number, right? $65 billion. So
yeah.
What do we make of this?
So Canada made this big commitment to meet the NATO targets, and we've done it. Now, we've done it a few different ways, including just upping our spending on our own military. So we were spending an additional $9.3 billion was announced in June to meet this NATO pledge. A big chunk of that was going, $2 billion of it went straight to our Canadian Armed Forces personnel, pay raises, improvements in their housing and technology. This is good, right? We should be doing this kind of stuff. Then there's also a whole bunch of repairs and things to existing ships and aircraft. The exciting part to me is the new Defense Investment Agency, which is kind of new old. It existed in another form before, but it'll be sort of reinvigorated. And the idea here is to find businesses, technologies that we can invest in that have a military application, so it checks the box, but also have a private sector application. And if that rings a bell, that's what DARPA got up to. That's why the internet exists. Huge. If you could take military spending and turn it into kind of private sector businesses, there can be enormous technical advances. So that's kind of exciting.
Would that be in producing raw materials as well? I mean, where would that be?
Well, I think the focus here would probably be on, as they're describing it as technology that we could export, so probably actual technology and services.
Right. So not building things necessarily.
Not necessarily, although that would be the next step of this industrial strategy, right, would be to manufacture things here, actually create jobs here, keep the intellectual property here. And I do think that's part of the overall government's industrial strategy. So it's not just have the good ideas and give it away anymore. Mm-hmm. I think their overall approach is what can we actually build here and create jobs here, including with partners, right? When they talk about, investing in submarines or new aircraft, they're now talking about what can be manufactured here and serviced and supplied by Canadian suppliers.
What are you expecting in the GDP numbers when they come out next week?
My guess is that they will be tepid at best. The Bank of Canada is sort of forecasting weakness. Mostly, I think we're going to look through them a little bit because there's still so much uncertainty. We just had that really great read on inflation in February. It doesn't really matter because what we need to know is what this period now during the Iran conflict is going to do to our economy, and we won't know that for a little while. So I would say, they're probably going to show maybe another slight contraction, maybe kind of sideways move, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is what's happening now, and we won't know that for another few weeks.
We leave it at that. Amanda, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Always great to talk.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.